And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. It's the bench, yes, and two first-time MPs, young, brilliant men who have worked their way into the 13th Parliament. On the very far end, celebrated journalist, former Al Jazeera, always worked in hostile environments. I remember his stories, amazing stories, and now he's the MP for Wajir South, Mohammed Ado. And the man in the middle, Captain Ronald Karauri. He won Kasarani as an independent. Can you imagine? Who does that? He does. He's done it. They've done it. Well done, gentlemen. Welcome to the bench.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
So, your thoughts, first of all, as rookies, as, you know, Maina calls you monos. How does it feel in that house?
Well, you know, I think, first of all, Jeff, thank you for having us on the show. And I want to take this opportunity, because I haven't had it before. My people in Kasarani are watching. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of them for having the confidence in me, for choosing me to lead them. And I want to assure them that all the promises we made, we're going to deliver. And that's the reason I got into Parliament, because everybody asks about leaving business to go into politics. So I have something to prove. So, yes, monos. You know, everybody is a mono at some point in their life. Eh? Yeah. But the good thing, we're fast learners, I believe, and we'll learn the ropes and we'll deliver. Legislation, I think we need a lot of work. I think the 12th Parliament, this is my opinion, was very disappointing. We had no opposition, and I remember Honorable Duale saying today he regrets some of the legislation they passed in the 12th Parliament. So I'm hoping for the 13th Parliament we'll do a better job. I know I'll do my part. And with my colleague over here and everybody else, 13th Parliament, I think, will be much better. Yeah. Yes.
Mohammed, what do you think? So far, how is it?
So far, so good. It's a learning curve. We're learning, you know, all about, you know, how we're supposed to carry out our duties as parliamentarians. Somewhat intimidating the first few days because of all these ranking member, mono kind of conversations you have. Yeah. But I must say our colleagues, you know, those who have come back to Parliament many times, are very gentle and usually guide us through. This is something many people or members of the public do not know, that members of the Parliament, when they're new, have to go through an orientation process to try and acclimatize and get a grip of parliamentary affairs and how it's done and all that. So far, so good. And I must say it's an honor for me to represent the great people of Wajir South who voted for me. I mean, from all the corners of the constituency. And I'm really, really indebted to them for their confidence.
For many years, Mohammed, you were overseas. I mean, you worked as a foreign correspondent for Al Jazeera. So, you know, to switch now to politics, how does it feel?
Well, it's a different ballgame, I must say. Yeah. It's quite different from what me and you're used to, you know. Yes, sometimes in the case of breaking news, we work very long hours, you know, sometimes 14 hours, 15-hour days, especially with the coverage of breaking news. Here, I mean, it's any time, you know, at any given time, you know, you have constituents, you have parliamentary sessions and all that. So it's much more, I must say, in-depth and much more taxing than journalism, which I thought was one of the most taxing professions ever, especially when you're covering hostile environments. Yeah. But yeah, we're getting there slowly. Yeah. You know, getting into the grind.
Yeah. Yeah. Captain, the campaign, you run a rough campaign, huh? I mean, Kasarani is not easy, yeah?
It is not easy. I came from flying. We did Sport Pesa. When I got into politics, I think it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I remember the last days of the campaign. Yeah. When the campaign ended, what I felt was relief. It wasn't even worry about what would happen after, what would come next, whether I would win or lose. Even though I had confidence I had run a good campaign, but I had relief that the campaign was finally over. So you can imagine how taxing it is. It's really rough. Much respect to the people who ran President Ruto and Raila Odinga presidential campaigns, running all over the country. It's really taxing. So it's something new. It's not something I've ever done before, but it's not new to me. I've switched from flying to business, and this is something else I'll do. And I feel, you know, in the country we have a lot of problems, and I think some of us have to jump into politics. You know, every Kenyan is a politician. Yeah. So whenever people say how come you left this to do politics? Every Kenyan is a politician. It's just that some choose to get into politics and be active, and some want to be bystanders and criticize from outside. But you see, there's a limit for criticizing from outside, and you can be powerless to do any changes from outside. So it's better to get into the game, whether it's muddy or mucky, and clean it from inside. So I think it's time. It's time.
Well done.
Yes.
And a new generation too.
Exactly.
Which is
yes.
good to see.
Yes.
By the way, what do you guys think of the CS nominees? Who you guys were in the house today? It was a full house today, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Captain, let's start with you.
Well, it was a bit controversial, but I think, in my opinion, because I think what the vetting means is to check, because the president has a mandate and he had a manifesto and he wants to deliver on his manifesto. So he picks the people he wants to work with. I think for us as MPs, what we really should check in terms, even though suitability and competence is one of the main factors, I think the main factors to check is if that person passes Chapter 6 of the Constitution in terms of integrity and all those requirements that are needed from a leader. Because if the president chooses that person and that's the person I want to work with, then if you're going to criticize like you're the one doing the interview, then I think we failed that test. So I think that's why there was a bit of controversy. But I think now that the government is in place, then Kenyans now have a chance to judge whether the manifesto will be delivered, because the president has the whole government intact, and then move forward from that. So it was a bit controversial, but those are the powers of parliament. So, yeah.
As ODM, Mohammed, what do you think?
Good question.
Good question. I think it's a good crop of cabinet secretaries that the president has appointed. Very good ones, really, really good ones, and others that will get by, for sure. But again, given the fact that they have got technocrats in their ministries who are going to aid them in what they're supposed to do in service of their nation, I'm sure they will be all right, most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be decent, huh?
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. Like you said, let Kenyans decide, right?
Exactly.
Once they're sworn in.
Exactly.
All right, the language that you guys have to learn in Parliament.
Yes.
There's so many new terms, huh?
Yeah, so, well, we have the standing orders. We have to learn all the standing orders. Basically, the rules of engagement.
Right.
The rules of debate in Parliament. Yeah. There are people who are very natural who've been watching them on TV throughout. Because I remember even as a businessman, there's some bills I was very interested in. Watching TV, people debating those bills. Majority leader now is Ishungwa. He's an intelligent guy. Duale now is leaving. He's going to be CS of Defense. There are people who are very good in debate. So hopefully we learn quickly and we can take those places, because Kasarani people have faith that I can be able to champion their cause in Parliament in terms of legislation. So we'll step up to the plate when the opportunity comes and when matters concern my people are there and people in general in Kenya, because I think also as someone who has been in business, you had a story about Kenya Airways just now. I was in Kalpa. I think I was also in TV. I was a general secretary at the time, and we were championing pilots' rights. And when I saw the story, I can relate to what's going on, because there's always a strike notice and all those things happening, all those troubles, labor issues. But what I mean is now the opportunity presents itself that I can step up to the plate. Instead of observing from outside, hopefully I become a good debater like the Ishungwas and Duales of this world, and I can champion for my people.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Mohammed, how about you, man?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, and to learn from the bigwigs, like Honorable Duale and Honorable Ichungwa and all those other people who are doing a great job. Honorable Farah Maalim, the former Deputy Speaker, the leader of the minority, Junaid, who is both comical and also very sensible in everything he says. Brilliant debater. Yeah. So we have a lot of examples, to follow. And honestly, for me, it doesn't mean a big switch from journalism, where we used to, articulate the news, to now articulating the matters affecting the people that elected me to Parliament, as well as the greater northern Kenya, which, has got myriad of problems, from the current drought to lack of infrastructure to poverty and all the other, and climate change, which is really wreaking havoc on that side of the world. So we have an opportunity to, first of all, raise the bar in terms of the debates and the quality of debates that take place in Parliament, and also make use of the exposure we've gotten in the course of going around the world, covering different democracies and different parts of the world. So it's just about, adding our own voice to what is already a political space in Kenya. But I must say it takes an awfully long time to get time to speak. Sometimes you can put your card in the day before yesterday. And you don't get the attention of the
speaker doesn't recognize you.
You are a mono. It's the ranking members who usually get the attention of the speaker.
You're far down on the list.
Yes, on the pecking order.
Yes.
All these members of parliament,
Right.
each wanting to speak.
Right.
And 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on what's happening there. If it's a maiden speech, it takes up to 10 minutes, 5 minutes for contribution to the different motions in front of the House. It takes quite a long time.
Have any of you spoken yet? Have you?
I haven't.
I have.
You have?
Yes,
Oh,
I haven't
you were
yet.
recognized.
I had 5 minutes.
Finally.
But after a lot of cajoling and
Yes, yes.
walking up to the speakers gallery.
Mine is yet to come.
But your card is
It's
in
coming.
there.
It is in
Your
there.
card is in
It's
there.
coming. I'm still far down on the
It's
list.
password, I'm sure.
Tell me, was day one intimidating? I mean, you're talking about ranking members, right? People who have been, like Aiden Duale,
Yes.
elected 4 times under 4 different parties.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of seniority in that house.
Yes.
Was day one a little intimidating?
I don't think as such, because what has been happening currently in terms of the debates, because we had the president's speech and now the vetting of the cabinet secretaries, I don't think we've gotten to that point of very intense debates in terms of matters that actually affect the lives of Kenyans per se. So I think when it gets to that point, it might get a bit tense and a bit anxious. I am yet to feel it. I don't know about my colleagues.
I was going to say, still warming up.
So we're still warming up.
Yeah.
So, but it was good to see all of them in the same room. I had the pleasure of meeting most of them earlier on in the course of my business.
Right.
But it's nice now to be in the chamber with them as a colleague.
Yeah.
It's a totally different feeling. And it's interesting. I think good times are coming.
Absolutely.
Yes.
About you, Mohammed, first day, was it a little intimidating? I mean, now you are Muheshimiwa. You're no longer, Mohammed, the journalist.
Yeah.
You're Muheshimiwa.
Yeah, it's a title. No, it wasn't intimidating, I must say. I mean, it was great to see the chamber from the inside. You usually see it on TV. By the way, it looks great. It looks better inside
Yes, it does.
than outside on TV, I must say. And then there's this green carpet, that is rolled all the way to the foyer of the parliament, where only elected members are expected to step on it. And there are sergeant at arms watching it. And so the whole culture is a bit, how can I call it? For lack of a better word, I mean, I'll say it is intimidating at first. But once inside, and, people are really, really calm and settled, and they will make you feel welcome. So, no, it wasn't much really intimidating, though I thought it would be at first, but wasn't at all.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
Captain, from 40,000 feet in the air to business and now dealing with this. How does it feel?
I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, I think, I've done, I was in Kenya Airways for 11 years. Many people don't believe that. Then we did Sport Pesa. I remember when I was quitting flying. I think my parents thought maybe I was going crazy. But now into politics again. I think my biggest worry about politics was that I felt that maybe it's not in my control. The perception in politics that things can get manipulated. You might win, but you don't get awarded the certificate. That was my biggest worry. But I think the independence of our institutions has shone through. Because with the election of the president, William Ruto, I think I have to mention as Sport Pesa, we went through a very rough time, and our only fault was being successful. So I can't know exactly what the president went through when he was being victimized at the time, but for everything to go through and for him to be declared president, it shows our institutions are completely independent and they stand. So that's a good thing for the country, I believe. So from all those stages of my life, I think this is a new challenge, and I'm happy to take up this particular challenge. And the people I really feel I need to prove to that I can deliver is the people of Kasarani. Kasarani is in Nairobi, but people forget there's a lot of poverty in Nairobi. In the whole of Kasarani, we have 30 schools. I was meeting some MPs from upcountry, and they tell me they have 100 schools in their constituencies, public schools. I'm telling them, we are in Nairobi, we don't have enough schools. The bursaries, all parents are waiting for the bursaries to come out via the CDF. We have problems with food. You see, we're talking about relief food now and drought, but even in Nairobi, people are suffering. So we have a lot of problems we need to tackle. The good thing about President Ruto, he's tackling those basic problems, because we need to ensure we have proper food for the country. Before we talk about these very big things, we educate our people and people have housing. If we take care of those basic needs, then everything else follows. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I think from a low of people losing hope in the country, I think this 13th Parliament, people should feel a little bit of hope that there's proper change coming. We have some fresh faces that have come in, some young people have come in, and the culture will change. Yeah. The culture should change with this 13th Parliament. So I'm very hopeful. I'm glad I made it to the 13th Parliament. I'm very hopeful that we can bring that change to the country.
Yeah, it's like lucky number 13, huh?
Exactly.
Well, earlier on you were talking about the drought in northern Kenya. And I'm telling you, I remember it being this bad 40 years ago. Yeah. Remember, it was in the 80s when it was this bad. Mm. Yeah. I mean, you have a huge task where you are.
Definitely. Not just the drought. I have a huge task given the huge size of my constituency. Mm. Jeff, I'm sure you'll be surprised to know that the constituency I represent, Wajir South, is the size of Nairobi, Central, and Western combined.
What?
24,000 square kilometers.
That's Wajir South alone?
That's Wajir South alone. It is 48% of the landmass of that county called Wajir, my county.
Yeah.
And with a population of, which amounts to about 42% of the population of the entire Wajir county. So you can imagine, the distance between one end of the constituency to the other, then without an inch of even tarmac. Most of the places do not have telecommunication network. So getting around in my constituency alone, if I was to visit every little settlement in my constituency, it would take at least 2 months to cover. So I have my task cut out for me, and now the drought is adding on to it. Mm-hmm. It's a result of climate change, which will be here with us for a very long time, as you know. It's a reality across the globe, not much of our own making. But again, we're living with the effects of it. And Wajir South had been shortchanged for a long time. At every instance, there's been boundary review. It was overlooked. I don't know why. Actually, I would like to know why. Because when you look at that huge piece of real estate there, if I can call it that, it needs at least more than one constituency. And 300,000, population of 300,000 people being represented by one member of parliament. Ooh. And, in such a far-flung place. And again, sharing a very long and porous border with the Republic of Somalia. And with all, the security challenges to boot. So, the drought is adding on to the pressure, but the pressure was already existing because of the sheer size of the constituency that I represent. Hopefully, when they get around, probably in 2024, they will this time round get to dividing or, altering the boundaries of Wajir South.
But
giving us another constituency.
Yeah, Mohammed, you chose this, huh? You wanted to do this. You wanted to run for office or to make a change. Is that what it is?
I'm sure you will agree with me, Jeff, when you go to some of these countries, other than Kenya, when you travel around the world and you see good things happening in far-flung places like Iraq when it comes to agriculture. The terrain is not much different from what we have in the northeast, Syria, even parts of Turkey. And you see what is happening in terms of development and, the people growing their own food and all that, you would want that replicated in your country. So every trip I went on abroad was, hey, this would have been good back home. This would have been good back home. This would have, and all these years of, this would have been good back home piling over. And then I said, it's time to serve the people. You don't know how long more you have. For the rest of your time now dedicated to service of the community. That is when I decided to run.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Do it yourself. Right. Well done. Captain, why Kasarani?
Kasarani, I'm a sports fan, and I have some roots in Kasarani. So I chose Kasarani because I identify, even in terms of development, what I want to do is, in Kasarani is very underdeveloped in terms of sports. When you get into Kasarani, we have the very beautiful stadium at the entrance of Kasarani constituency. Kasarani is very huge. It goes all the way to Ruai and Kamulu, right? And it can be shocking because he talks about not an inch of tarmac. You'll be shocked to realize even in Ruai, where I call it my Dharakanithi. Yeah. That's why I got the most votes. Because the way I see it, this is where people have hope in change, because they also don't have roads. The road network is very poor, poorest in Nairobi, I believe. In fact, the other day I met with the now CS of transport and my friend Mheshimiwa Murkomen, and I told him, look, you have to help me in Kasarani, Ruai, especially because of the road network. They don't have water from the city council, and it's a ward in Nairobi, in a constituency in Nairobi. So I think for what I want to do, it's one of the places, if I do make a change, it will have a significant impact on the population of the constituency. Yeah. So there's a lot I can do. The stadium is very nice outside. If you walk in, we don't have public spaces where they have proper sports grounds where people can play sports. In terms of education, we don't have enough schools, as I've just said. Infrastructure is very poor. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I believe, given the 5 years that I have, people say it's short. It could be short, it could be long. It depends on what you do with it. So let's see what we can do, but I believe that there's a chance of transforming Kasarani into a proper city in Nairobi.
You guys are talking the right language, and I hope you guys don't get disheartened,
Yes.
2-3 years down the line. Don't get disheartened if your card is not picked or if your name is not picked by the speaker for you to, in the debate.
Yeah.
You are talking the right language, and it is time for this change. I mean, 60 years, nearly 60 years after independence.
Correct.
No tarmac?
No tarmac.
I mean, come on.
People starving.
Come on. Does that make sense?
It does not make sense.
And then...
Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, come back, because this conversation is really, really great. This is the kind of conversation we should be having. And these are the leaders, not of tomorrow, of today, of now. Minor, these aren't monos. Qualified to be in that 13th parliament. Lucky number 13. Keep tweeting, folks, at Koinange Jeff, at Susan Tibi Kenya, the hashtag JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.